The night was quiet on the edge of Outpost Delta 9, a small human base built on the alien planet Ryla. The twin moons shone above the metallic structures, and a cold wind carried the sound of machines working in the distance. Ethan, a young human mechanic, was finishing his shift in the repair bay. He wiped the oil off his hands and stretched, ready to rest after another long day. The base was always silent at this hour, until a sudden scream cut through the night. It wasn't a human scream. It was sharp, high, and filled with pain. Ethan froze. For a second he thought he was imagining it, but then he heard it again, closer this time. Grabbing his flashlight, he ran outside, his boots echoing against the metal floor. The scream came from near the boundary fence where the alien forest began. As he reached the gate, his light caught a strange shape, a tall figure kneeling on the ground, clutching her leg. The moonlight revealed smooth, blue-tinted skin that shimmered like crystal. Ethan's heart skipped a beat. It was an alien woman, one of the royal kind from the nearby city. Humans were rarely allowed near them. What was she doing out here? When she noticed him, she gasped and tried to move away, but pain stopped her. "Don't come close," she shouted in a shaky voice. I sat on it by accident." Ethan blinked, confused. Sat on what? Her breathing was fast, panicked. She moved her hand slightly, revealing a small metal device stuck to her lower side. It pulsed with red light like a heartbeat. The glow reflected off her tears. "This thing, it burns inside me," she said weakly, her voice trembling. Ethan crouched closer, ignoring her warnings. "Let me see," he said softly. He could smell the strange scent of alien metal mixed with ozone. The device looked like a human energy cell, but different. More advanced, more dangerous. It was half melted into her skin, as if it had fused with her body. "Don't touch it," she warned. "It reacts to alien blood. Only your kind can handle it safely." That made Ethan pause. "You mean humans?" She nodded, her eyes glowing faintly. "Yes, only humans." Ethan's training as a mechanic kicked in. He knew energy cores, and he recognized that this one was unstable. The red pulse was speeding up. "If we don't get this out soon," he said, "it could explode." The alien's face twisted in fear. "Then help me," she whispered, her pride breaking. "Please." "I can't move." Ethan grabbed his toolkit and carefully opened the outer case of the device. Sparks jumped out, lighting the dark around them. The alien flinched in pain but didn't scream this time. He worked fast but gentle, watching the pulse slow down with each turn of his wrench. Sweat rolled down his neck despite the cold night air. "What's your name?" he asked, trying to keep her conscious. "Liara," she breathed. "Princess Liara of the alien court." Ethan's hands froze for a moment. A princess? That explained her fine clothing and the strange mark on her wrist, a royal symbol. If she was from the alien court, this was serious. If the royal guards found her with a human, they'd both be in trouble, but he couldn't stop now. "I'm Ethan," he said. "Hold still, Liara. Almost there." As he pulled the final piece free, a blinding flash of red light burst out, throwing him backward. The device rolled away, smoking on the ground. Liara screamed and collapsed, her body shaking from the energy release. Ethan rushed back to her side, checking her pulse. It was weak but steady. The device's light faded, leaving only a faint glow. Then, from the distance, Ethan heard a deep rumble. Engines, several of them. He turned his head toward the horizon and saw shadows moving in the sky. Ships approaching fast. Liara opened her eyes weakly and whispered, "They're coming. My guards. They must not see you." Ethan looked at her, at the burning wreckage of the device, and at the sky now filled with red lights. He didn't understand what he had just saved her from, or what he had started. But something told him that this night would change everything. He lifted the fainted princess into his arms and whispered to himself, "Hang in there. I'll get you to safety." Behind them, the device on the ground blinked once more and sent out a silent signal into the night. The wind howled outside as Ethan carried the fainted alien princess Liara back into his small workshop inside the outpost. He laid her gently on the metal table and turned on the emergency lights. The soft blue glow revealed her delicate crystal-like skin. She looked fragile, but the device she had sat on was not. It lay on the floor, still faintly pulsing with red light, like it was alive. Ethan stared at it carefully. "What are you?" he muttered under his breath. It wasn't just alien tech. There were human parts welded into its design. He recognized the pattern of Earth-made circuits. That didn't make sense. Humans had never traded tech with the alien empire. Liara stirred and slowly opened her eyes. Her voice was weak. It gone? Ethan nodded. I got it out, but it's still active. What is this thing? She hesitated, as if unsure whether to trust him. Finally, she said quietly, It's an energy core. We use it for power testing. But this one was different. It wasn't meant for me, Ethan frowned. Then who was it meant for? She looked away. Humans, she whispered. The word sent a chill down his spine. Humans, but your people, they banned us from entering your cities. Why would you make something for us? Liara sat up with effort, pain flickering across her face. Not me, my people's scientists. They said they could create a fusion crystal that links with human energy. But when they tested it, it failed. The crystal reacts violently to our kind. When I sat on it, it attached to my body like a living parasite. Ethan looked down at his hands. That's why I could touch it safely. Because I'm human, she nodded slowly. You saved me because your body neutralized it. Then she glanced at the glowing red device. But now it's awake. It will call others. Ethan's heart skipped. Call others? You mean she cut him off? The Royal Guard. They will come. They will think you attacked me. Ethan stepped back, thinking fast. Then we need to hide. If they find me with you, they won't listen to reason. Liara looked at him with tired eyes. If they find me with you, they might kill you to protect the royal image. Ethan grabbed a metal case and began packing the device inside, sealing it with magnetic clamps. Then we better move. But just as he turned toward the door, the lights flickered. A low hum filled the air, followed by a mechanical voice from the base speaker. Unauthorized energy signal detected. Coordinates locked, Ethan cursed under his breath. That's not your guards. That's the base defense AI. Liara stood up, wobbling slightly, her long silver hair falling over her shoulders. They will call your soldiers too? Yeah, Ethan said, checking his tools. And they'll shoot first, ask later. He pulled out a portable scanner and aimed it at the device. The reading flashed bright orange and unstable. This thing's getting hotter, he said. If it overloads again, it could blow this whole outpost. Liara placed her hand on the table for balance. There is a way to stop it. The energy core must be cooled using pure plasma water. But that only exists in the royal labs, Ethan sighed. So we can't do it here. No, she said quietly. But there's an old mining shaft 2 kilometers from this outpost. It was built by humans years ago. The cooling vents there might work. Ethan looked at her, surprised. You know about that? She gave a faint smile. I read your people's maps when I was younger. I always wanted to see how humans lived. For a moment their eyes met. A strange connection formed between them. One built not from duty but survival. Suddenly the sound of engines echoed outside. The ground shook lightly. Ethan ran to the window and saw bright blue lights in the sky. Alien ships. They're here, he said. Liara's body stiffened. Too soon. They must have tracked the beacon. Ethan turned off the lights and grabbed his toolkit. We'll have to leave now. If they catch us, we're done. He helped Liara to her feet. She leaned on him for support, her skin cold against his arm. Together they slipped out the back door into the dark wasteland beyond the outpost. Behind them, the red light of the device blinked one last time, then went dark. But miles above, in the alien fleet, a signal flashed across their command screens. Beacon activated. Royal signature detected. Human presence confirmed. The hunt had begun. The cold air bit into Ethan's skin as he and Liara moved across the rocky ground, the twin moons lighting their path. The night was quiet again, but Ethan could feel the danger all around. The hum of engines echoed faintly behind them. He knew the soldiers were close. Liara's steps were weak. Her body was still shaking from the pain of the device's removal. She leaned on Ethan's arm, her breath coming in short gasps. We must hurry, she whispered. They will not stop until they find me. Ethan tightened his grip on her. Then we'll make sure they don't. They reached a broken ridge overlooking the outpost. From there, Ethan saw bright blue lights descending, 3 alien ships landing near his workshop. The soldiers came out in formation, their armor glowing with white symbols. Their leader, a tall figure with a silver mask, shouted orders in a language Ethan didn't understand. But one thing was clear. They were searching for Liara. Ethan turned to her. Who are they? Liara's face darkened. The Royal Guard, my mother sent them. They think I am kidnapped. Or worse, Ethan frowned. Kidnapped? By me, she nodded. Yes, humans are still seen as dangerous, unpredictable. If they find us together, they will think you hurt me. Ethan ran a hand through his hair. Great. So, saving your life makes me a criminal now. Liara looked at him with guilt in her eyes. You should not have helped me. My people will never forgive it. He smiled slightly. Too late for that. I'm already in trouble. They started moving again, following a path down the ridge. In the distance, lightning flashed across the alien sky, painting the desert with eerie colors. They could see the abandoned mining shaft up ahead, their only hope. Then a sound cut through the air, a metallic hum followed by a sharp beam of light. Ethan turned just in time to see a drone scanning the area. Its red lens glowed as it hovered near them. Get down, he whispered. They dropped behind a rock, but the drone's beam passed over them and it beeped in alarm. Run, Ethan shouted. The drone fired a small plasma shot that exploded near their feet. The shockwave threw dust into the air. Liara stumbled and Ethan caught her before she fell. They ran through the dust storm, hearts pounding. Behind them, the soldiers were coming fast. Blue lights flashed between the rocks. Plasma shots hissed through the air. Ethan ducked behind an old mining cart and returned fire with his pulse pistol. The weapon was old but reliable. He aimed carefully and shot the drone out of the sky. It exploded with a loud pop. Liara's voice trembled. They will send more. Then we move now, Ethan said. They ran into the mining shaft, their footsteps echoing. The tunnel walls were covered with rusted pipes and cables. Ethan turned on his flashlight, guiding them deeper inside. The air smelled of metal and dust. When they finally stopped to rest, Liara leaned against the wall, clutching her side. I never thought a human would risk his life for me. Ethan sat beside her. You didn't deserve to die out there. I don't care what species you are. She looked at him, surprised. Most humans I met feared us. Or hated us, he shrugged. Maybe they just never met the right alien. A faint smile touched her lips, the first he had seen from her. But before he could say more, they heard heavy footsteps echoing in the tunnel. Ethan stood, readying his pistol. The sound grew louder, armored boots steady and close. Liara grabbed his hand. They found us, she whispered. The soldiers appeared from the shadows, their energy rifles glowing blue. The leader, the one with the silver mask, stepped forward. His voice was cold and sharp. Step away from the princess, human. Ethan raised his weapon. Not a chance, Liara tried to speak. Commander Varric, stop! He saved me. Silence, the commander shouted. The human has poisoned you with his lies. He will be executed. Ethan aimed his pistol straight at Varric. You'll have to go through me first. The soldiers lifted their rifles. The air grew heavy with tension. For a moment, time seemed to freeze, human and alien staring across the dim tunnel waiting for the first move. Then, suddenly, the ground beneath them rumbled. A loud crack echoed from below. The tunnel began to collapse. Move, Ethan yelled. Rocks fell, dust filled the air, and everything turned into chaos. Ethan grabbed Liara and dove through a side passage as the ceiling came crashing down behind them. The commander shouted orders, but the path was sealed. When the rumbling stopped, Ethan and Liara found themselves in an unknown chamber, deeper inside the mine, glowing faintly with blue light from the strange crystals in the walls. Ethan looked around and whispered, Looks like we found something your people never did. Liara stared at the glowing walls, her voice barely a whisper. No, these are living crystals. They react to thought. My ancestors said they vanished centuries ago. Ethan exhaled slowly, realizing they weren't just running anymore. They had stumbled upon something far bigger. The air inside the hidden chamber was thick and warm, glowing with a soft blue light that pulsed gently like a heartbeat. Ethan looked around in awe. The walls weren't just stone. They were alive, covered with transparent crystal veins that shimmered when he moved. Liara reached out and touched one of the glowing veins. It rippled under her fingertips, reacting to her touch as if it could feel her presence. These are the mind crystals, she whispered. They disappeared from our world ages ago. No one has seen them since the Great Collapse, Ethan frowned. Mind crystals? She nodded. They store energy, but not like normal fuel. They feed on thoughts, emotions, and memory. They can read the soul. Ethan rubbed his chin. That explains the glow. They're reacting to us. He stepped closer, watching his reflection in the crystal surface. The faint glow in his hand, where he had touched the strange device earlier, pulsed brighter in response. It's reacting to me, he said slowly. Liara stared at his hand. Of course. The energy you absorbed from the core. It connected to your life force. The crystal inside you is alive. He raised an eyebrow. Alive? Yes, she said softly. You carry part of the royal energy inside you now. That's why you didn't die when you touched it. Ethan took a deep breath. So what happens if it stays in me? Her eyes filled with concern. It will keep merging. It will rewrite your cells until you're no longer just human. He gave a nervous laugh. That's not exactly good news. Before Liara could reply, a sudden tremor ran through the ground. The walls shook, sending small shards of crystal falling from the ceiling. Ethan caught Liara before she slipped. From the tunnel behind them came the muffled sound of plasma blasts. The soldiers were trying to dig their way in. They're coming, Ethan said, tightening his grip on her hand. We need to move. Liara pointed deeper into the chamber. There's a core chamber ahead. The energy pool there can separate the crystal from your body, but it's risky. If it fails. I explode? Ethan guessed. She hesitated. You vanish. Ethan smiled faintly. Well, that's a comforting thought. Let's do it anyway. They hurried toward the back of the cavern where the crystals formed a glowing pool of liquid light. It looked like molten stars swirling slowly in the center. Liara knelt beside it, whispering ancient words. The pool responded, rising slightly like a living wave. Stand here, she said. Ethan stepped into the light. It felt warm and cold at the same time, like electricity and water mixed together. The glow from his hand spread across his chest, up his neck, and into his eyes. He gasped. The energy was moving, pulling something out of him. Liara placed her hands over his heart. Hold still, she whispered. The crystal inside you must be extracted slowly. Ethan's body trembled as light burst from his skin. Images flashed in his mind. Liara's face when he first found her, the explosion, the red glow, the sound of her voice calling his name. He felt everything at once, her fear, her loneliness, her strange beauty, her strength. Liara's eyes filled with tears as she felt the same memories. The energy was connecting them, showing both their hearts. She whispered, I can see you. All of you. He struggled to breathe. Then tell me this, why do your people hate us so much? She closed her eyes. Because long ago we took your technology and called it our own. We feared your power. We feared what humans could become. The crystal light grew brighter, almost blinding. The pool rose higher, surrounding them both. Then, with a sharp flash, a glowing shard emerged from Ethan's chest and floated between them. The same blue crystal that once threatened Liara's life. Ethan fell to his knees, gasping for air. The glow in his body faded. Liara caught the floating shard in her hands, holding it carefully like something sacred. It's over, she whispered. You're safe now. But before she could finish, a blast of energy tore through the tunnel wall. The soldiers had broken through. Commander Varric stepped into the chamber, his mask glowing in the blue light. He pointed his weapon at Ethan. Step away from the princess. Liara stood protectively in front of Ethan. No, he saved me, Commander. He saved us both. Varric didn't lower his weapon. That human holds forbidden energy. He must be destroyed. Ethan forced himself to stand, weak but defiant. You'll have to shoot through her first. The crystals on the walls flared suddenly, reacting to the tension in the air. The light grew wild and alive, swirling like fire. Liara turned toward the commander. If you harm him, the crystals will sense it. They will consume us all. For the first time, Varric hesitated. The light around them pulsed faster, humming like 1,000 voices whispering. Liara looked at Ethan, her voice shaking. We must leave now. The crystals are unstable. They're linked to our emotions, and right now they feel our fear. Ethan nodded, grabbing her hand again. Together they ran toward another exit glowing faintly ahead, leaving the commander shouting behind them. As they escaped into the night air, the cave behind them roared, collapsing in a storm of blue light. Ethan looked back one last time and whispered, What did we just awaken? Liara's eyes glowed faintly. Something my people buried long ago, and something that now lives inside both of us. Dust and smoke filled the air as the cave behind them exploded in a wave of blue light. Ethan and Liara stumbled out onto the rocky plain, gasping for air. The ground trembled beneath their feet, cracks glowing faintly with crystal energy. The mind crystals were alive, spreading underground like glowing roots. Ethan shielded his eyes. It's going to bring the whole mountain down. Liara looked back, fear written across her face. Those crystals, they're awakening. They were never meant to be disturbed. A second blast shook the sky, sending a wave of light shooting upward like lightning. It was beautiful and terrifying at once. The night turned blue as the pulse traveled far across the horizon. Ethan turned toward her. "That signal, your people will see it, won't they?" Liara nodded. "The fleet will come, and when they do, they'll destroy everything in this area, including us," Ethan sighed. "Then we move fast." He helped her up and they started running through the uneven terrain away from the collapsing mine. The cold air stung their faces as they ran, and behind them a massive plume of glowing dust rose into the night sky. After what felt like hours, they reached an old cargo hangar half buried in sand. The doors were broken and rusted, but inside sat a forgotten ship, small, dented but intact. Ethan grinned faintly. "Lucky day." Liara stared at it in disbelief. "That's a human shuttle." He ran his hand across the hull, smiling. "Yeah, an old one. Model H-27. I used to repair these back home." He climbed inside and began checking the controls. The power cells were dead, but the fusion core was still stable. "It'll take a bit of work," he muttered, "but it can fly." Liara stood at the doorway, her silver hair glowing softly in the dim light. "Even if it flies, they'll shoot us down." Ethan gave her a crooked smile. "Then we just have to fly smarter." He motioned for her to sit while he connected wires and adjusted the power grid. Sparks flashed, then the ship's lights flickered on. The engines groaned softly, alive again after years of silence. As the ship powered up, Liara sat beside him, her hand trembling slightly. "You don't have to do this, Ethan. If you leave me here, they might spare you." He shook his head. "I already started this. I'm seeing it through." She stared at him quietly. "You're different from what they told us humans were." He smirked. "Guess we're both breaking rules tonight." A loud rumble echoed across the desert. Ethan glanced through the viewport and froze. High above, several alien warships were descending. Their engines glowed red, cutting through the clouds. "They're here," Liara whispered. Ethan grabbed the flight stick. "Hold on!" The engines roared, and the old shuttle lifted off the ground, shaky but determined. Dust swirled around them as they rose into the sky. Plasma beams from the fleet streaked past them, lighting up the darkness. "Evasive maneuvers!" Ethan shouted, jerking the ship to the side. Liara gripped the seat tightly, her eyes wide. The shuttle spun through clouds, dodging one beam after another. "Can you send a signal?" Ethan yelled. Liara closed her eyes, focusing her mind. A soft blue light appeared around her hands as she tried to connect telepathically to the royal network. Sweat formed on her forehead. "I'm trying. They're blocking me!" Another plasma blast hit their right wing, and the shuttle shook violently. Alarms screamed across the cockpit. Ethan slammed buttons, trying to stabilize the ship. "We've lost thruster control." Liara looked out the window and gasped. "There, the canyon. If you can get us low enough, they can't follow." Ethan nodded and pushed the controls forward. The shuttle dove sharply, racing toward the dark canyon below. The alien ships fired again, but the shots missed, exploding harmlessly against the cliffs. They dropped fast, scraping through narrow rock walls until they finally leveled out near the canyon floor. Ethan exhaled shakily. "We're safe. For now." Liara leaned back, exhausted. Her breathing slowed, but her eyes still glowed faintly. "You risked your life for someone you barely know." Ethan smiled softly. "Guess I'm just bad at leaving people behind." Silence filled the cockpit. Only the hum of the engines and the soft flicker of warning lights broke the quiet. Then Liara's voice turned serious. "Ethan, the energy inside you. When I pulled the crystal out, it didn't completely leave you. The bond, it's still there," he frowned. "What do you mean?" She touched his hand gently. "When you saved me, the crystal shared a piece of its essence with you. It linked us. If you die, that energy dies with you. But if you live..." Ethan looked into her glowing eyes. "Then what?" She smiled faintly. "Then our bond might be the key to peace between our worlds." Before he could respond, a faint beeping sound came from the radar. Ethan looked at the screen and froze. "We've got company again." Liara turned toward the window. Above the canyon, one massive warship hovered, its lights reflecting off the rocks. "It's my mother's ship," Liara whispered. "The Queen herself." Ethan gripped the controls tighter. So much for being safe. Outside, the sky turned silver as the Queen's ship descended slowly, surrounding them in blinding light. Liara closed her eyes and said softly, No more running, Ethan. It's time they hear the truth. Ethan looked at her, the alien princess who had once been a stranger, and nodded. Then let's make them listen. The ship hovered in silence as the royal fleet formed a circle around them, the light of destiny burning bright on both sides of the canyon. The air trembled as the royal flagship descended, its silver hull glowing like a second moon. Ethan and Liara's small shuttle looked like an insect compared to the massive alien warship above them. The light from the Queen's vessel poured into the canyon, washing the dark rocks in bright gold. Ethan's heart pounded. She's really coming here, isn't she? Liara stared out the window, her voice quiet but firm. My mother never travels personally. If she's here, it means she thinks this is war. The shuttle vibrated as a tractor beam locked onto it. Slowly, it lifted off the canyon floor, pulled toward the flagship. Ethan looked over at Liara. Any chance she's here for a friendly talk? Liara gave a tired smile. My mother doesn't talk to humans, Ethan, but maybe she will today. As the shuttle docked, the door hissed open. Bright light spilled in. A group of royal guards in shimmering armor stood waiting. Their weapons were drawn, but they did not fire. Instead, one stepped forward and bowed slightly to Liara. Princess Liara, the Queen demands your presence immediately, he said. His tone was respectful, but his eyes glared at Ethan with pure hatred. Ethan raised his hand slowly. Easy, I'm not here to start trouble. The guard didn't respond. Liara turned to Ethan. Stay close to me. Don't speak unless I ask you to. They walked down a long corridor that glowed with soft violet light. Alien runes lined the walls, whispering faint energy. Ethan felt eyes on him from every corner. The air was heavy with tension and the faint hum of power. Finally, they entered the throne chamber. It was enormous, like a cathedral carved from light. The alien queen sat on a high seat of crystal, her silver gown flowing like liquid metal. Her eyes glowed a fierce blue, sharp and full of authority. She was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Mother, Liara began softly, bowing her head. Silence, the queen interrupted. Her voice echoed through the chamber, calm yet powerful. You disappear from the palace for 3 cycles, reappear on a forbidden world, and now I find you bonded with a human? Liara flinched but didn't look away. He saved my life. I would be dead without him. The queen's eyes narrowed. Saved or corrupted? Ethan clenched his fists but stayed quiet, remembering Liara's warning. Liara stepped forward. The energy core you gave me was unstable. It was not made for our kind. When I touched it, it began to destroy me. He removed it. He risked his life for me. The queen stood, her tall figure radiating strength. That device was never meant for you, child. It was part of an experiment. Ethan finally spoke, unable to stay silent. Experiment? You mean humans? The queen's gaze turned to him, cold and piercing. Yes, long ago our ancestors discovered your world. They took fragments of human technology, knowledge, and life energy. They built our empire on it, Liara gasped. You lied to us. You said humans were primitive. The queen's voice softened, but her expression remained proud. We had to protect our people. Humans are unpredictable, emotional, reckless, dangerous. You see now what happens when our blood mixes with theirs. Ethan stepped closer. You mean what happens when you see a human save your daughter's life? Guards raised their weapons, but the queen raised her hand to stop them. She studied Ethan for a long moment. You touched the energy crystal and lived. That is impossible for my kind. He met her gaze. Maybe it's not about kind. Maybe it's about intent. For a moment, silence filled the room. The queen's expression softened, just a little. Liara stepped closer to her mother. Please see what I saw. He risked everything, not for power, but for compassion. The energy inside him, it changed him. And me? The queen looked at her daughter carefully. You are bonded to him now. Liara nodded slowly. Yes, the crystal joined our life forces. We share it. The queen turned her gaze back to Ethan. If that bond exists, then destroying one would destroy the other. Ethan nodded. So maybe you should start treating humans as something more than tools. The queen stared at him, then slowly sat back on her throne. You speak boldly for one so small, Ethan smirked. Humans have a habit of surprising people. Liara reached out, taking Ethan's hand in front of everyone. The blue energy between them shimmered faintly, forming a light that filled the room. The queen's eyes widened. The glow wasn't just power, and it was harmony. The energy that once caused chaos now pulsed in rhythm, calm and balanced. The Queen whispered, almost to herself, "Unity energy." The lost element, Liara's voice trembled. "It's real, Mother. Humans and aliens can coexist. This proves it." The Queen stood again, her face unreadable. After a long silence, she turned to her guards. "Stand down." The soldiers lowered their weapons immediately. Ethan blinked in surprise. "Wait, does that mean—" The Queen looked at him. "It means, human, that perhaps your kind still has something to teach us." For the first time, Ethan saw her smile, small but real. But before anyone could breathe in relief, an alarm blared across the ship. A red light flashed on the walls. A voice announced, "Unknown energy surge detected, approaching fast." The Queen's eyes widened. "The crystal mine. It's waking fully." Ethan looked at Liara. "That's where we were. It's unstable." The Queen turned toward the window, her expression grave. "If that energy reaches orbit, it will destroy both our worlds." Liara gripped Ethan's hand tighter. "Then we stop it, together." The Queen looked at them both. "Then you will have one chance, human. One chance to prove that your courage matches your words." Ethan nodded. "Let's end this." The Queen extended her hand toward them, the royal seal glowing on her palm. "Then the fate of two races rests on one human and my daughter." Liara smiled faintly through her fear. "And on the bond that shouldn't have existed," the Queen whispered. "Yet perhaps it was meant to." The Queen's command echoed through the flagship as red warning lights flashed across the control deck. Outside, the stars themselves seemed to tremble. The energy surge from the awakened crystals was spreading across the planet, glowing like rivers of blue fire. It wasn't just a storm. It was alive, expanding, pulsing, and growing stronger by the second. Ethan gripped the edge of the console. "If that energy reaches the upper atmosphere, it'll ignite the ion layer. You'll lose the planet, and everything around it." The Queen turned toward her officers. "Prepare all ships for containment." An officer hesitated. "Your Majesty, containment fields won't hold that kind of power. It's—" Ethan cut him off. "A living energy. You can't contain it. You have to neutralize it." The Queen looked at him sharply. "And how would you suggest we do that, human?" Ethan glanced at Liara, then back at the Queen. "The bond between me and your daughter, it's linked to the same energy source. If we channel it back into the crystals, we can stabilize the reaction." Liara's eyes widened. "You mean use ourselves as conduits?" He nodded. "Exactly. It's risky, but it's the only shot we've got." The Queen's expression darkened. "Risky, you mean suicidal? The surge could vaporize you both." Ethan met her gaze without flinching. "If we do nothing, everyone dies anyway." For a long moment, the Queen said nothing. Then slowly she nodded. "Very well. You will have the support of my fleet. Do what you must." Liara turned to Ethan, her voice trembling slightly. "If this fails, your life ends with mine." Ethan smiled faintly. "Guess we'll just have to make it work." Moments later, they were aboard the small shuttle again, racing toward the source of the energy storm. The view outside was surreal, huge waves of blue light rising from the ground, swirling like oceans in the sky. The air shimmered, reality bending under the pressure of the crystal's power. Liara sat beside Ethan, her eyes glowing brighter than ever. "It's calling to us," she whispered. "It feels our bond. It wants to complete the circle." Ethan adjusted the ship's course. "Then let's give it what it wants, but on our terms." As they descended toward the epicenter, the sensors screamed with overload warnings. The energy readings were off the charts. The old mine site was gone, replaced by a massive crater filled with radiant blue liquid. Lightning arced upward from its center, striking the sky like the planet itself was alive. "Brace yourself," Ethan shouted as the shuttle entered the storm. The ship shook violently. Panels burst, alarms blared, and the hull glowed from the heat. But somehow they stayed airborne. Liara placed her hand on Ethan's arm. "The closer we get, the stronger the bond becomes. We have to merge our focus, our thoughts." Ethan nodded, gripping her hand. "Then let's do it together." They closed their eyes, breathing in sync. The energy around them responded, swirling faster, brighter. The crystal light that once divided them now pulsed between their hands, forming a bridge of energy that connected human and alien life. Through that bond, they saw everything and the fear of two races, the centuries of mistrust, the wars, the lies. But beneath it all, they saw something stronger, the desire to survive, to understand, to connect. Liara whispered, her voice trembling. "Do you feel it?" It's listening to us. Ethan opened his eyes. Then let's tell it to stop. He placed both hands on the ship's console and the crystal bond flared like a sunrise. The light shot from the shuttle into the crater below, spiraling deep into the core. The storm responded with a roar that shook the heavens. The Queen's voice came through the communicator, strained and urgent. The surge is peaking. Pull back. But Ethan didn't move. Not yet. Almost there. Liara screamed as the energy rushed through them, burning and freezing at once. Her body trembled, and tears streamed down her face, glowing blue in the stormlight. Ethan held on tighter. Stay with me, Liara. Don't let go! The world exploded into light. When the brightness faded, everything was silent. The storm was gone. The sky was clear again, filled with calm stars. The ground below shimmered faintly, like glass cooling after a fire. The planet was still alive. Inside the Queen's flagship, officers cheered. The readings dropped to normal levels. The Queen stood motionless, eyes fixed on the view outside. They did it, she whispered. But then her expression changed. Concern filled her voice. Where are they? Moments later, a faint signal appeared on the radar. A lone shuttle drifting peacefully above the surface. Ethan woke to the sound of wind. The shuttle was damaged but stable. He turned his head and saw Liara beside him, her eyes closed, her face calm. For a terrifying second he thought she was gone, but then she stirred, breathing softly. Her eyes fluttered open, glowing faintly. We're alive? Ethan smiled weakly. Barely. But yeah, I think we made it. Outside, the horizon glowed with a soft blue shimmer. The crystals had gone dormant, peaceful once again. The world was quiet, reborn. Liara sat up slowly, still weak. The energy inside us, it's fading. Ethan nodded. Good. Maybe that means we did our job. The shuttle's communicator buzzed. The Queen's voice came through, soft and heavy with emotion. Ethan, Liara, the galaxy owes you both a debt beyond words. Liara smiled faintly. Mother, maybe now our people will finally listen. There was a pause, then the Queen said quietly, They will, I promise. Ethan looked out the window, watching the stars above. You know, he said softly, I never thought I'd save a planet today. Liara chuckled weakly. And I never thought a human would change my world. She reached out, taking his hand. Their palms met, and for the first time, there was no glow, no energy pulse, just warmth. The camera of destiny pulled back in silence. A human and an alien princess, sitting side by side under the twin moons. The galaxy forever changed by their bond. And somewhere deep below, buried in the calm earth, the crystals pulsed once more, not in anger but in harmony.